BFM 부산영어방송.
Beach,
Oh yeah!
camping,
Oh yeah!
swimming.
Oh yeah!
Summer is awesome.
Mosquitoes,
Oh no,
tropical nights,
oh no,
food poisoning.
oh no.
Summer is awful.
But you know, you can always prevent food poisoning.
Oh, really?
Of course. I'll tell you. Follow me, okay? First, wash your hands, utensils, and food surfaces often. Second, cook and store your food at safe temperatures and always use clean water. Third, defrost food safely. The best way to do it is in the refrigerator. Fourth, keep raw food separate from ready-to-eat food to prevent cross-contamination. Last but not least, always remember that eating safely is the best way to enjoy your meal. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM, Busan 영어방송.
어린 시절, 여러분만의 특별했던 꿈을 기억하시나요?
BEFM is holding an English speech contest to talk about the dreams of the youth and the future of Busan.
부산 지역의 꿈나무들이 바라는 부산의 미래, 우리의 미래를 그려볼 수 있는 영어 말하기 대회를 개최합니다. 제1회 중구청정배 청소년 영어 말하기 대회, 나의 꿈, 우리의 미래. 9월 16일 토요일 오전 11시 부산 영화체험박물관에서 2030 부산 세계박람회를 앞둔 국제도시 부산의 미래를 확인해보세요.
우리는 자랑스러운 부산의 꿈나무입니다.
We are the future of Busan.
Come to hear firsthand the dreams of Busan's local youth and find out how they envision the city's hopeful future in this speech contest.
이 행사는 중구 진로교육지원센터와 BEFM 부산영어방송이 함께합니다.
친환경에 필요한 거? 내 몸. 한정거장 거리 정도는 걷기. 엘리베이터 대신 계단. 플러그 뽑으면서 스쿼트까지. 몸 좀 움직였을 뿐인데 건강 아끼고 환경 아끼는 친환경 피지컬.
심으뜸과 함께 시작해볼까요?
공익광고 협의회.
The time is now 2 o'clock.
Welcome to BFM News at 2. I'm Haeyeon Park. In national news, President Yoon and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi have agreed to enhance collaboration in space, military tech, and deepen their strategic partnership in the Indo-Pacific. They reached this accord during a meeting on Sunday local time on the sidelines of the G20 summit while celebrating the 50th anniversary of South Korea-India diplomatic ties. Their commitments include ongoing collaboration on India's acquisition of K9 self-propelled artillery weapon howitzers made in South Korea and strengthening defense and arms cooperation. In addition, they aim to expand collaboration in supply chains, especially in information technology and electronics. Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung has vowed to initiate impeachment proceedings against Defense Minister Lee Jong-sup for alleged unlawful interference in an investigation into a Marine's death during a rain rescue mission. He criticized President Yoon for not heeding public demands to remove the minister and argued that last week's interpellation session exposed the minister's violation of the law in interfering with the initial probe. The opposition plans to investigate the allegations further through a special counsel investigation. This marks their second attempt to impeach a cabinet member during the current administration, following a previous effort to impeach Interior Minister Lee Sang-min over the handling of last year's Itaewon crowd crush. South Korea's foreign ministry pledged close collaboration with Morocco and the international community in the wake of a devastating earthquake that struck Morocco last Friday. Foreign Minister Park Jin conveyed solidarity and condolences on Sunday and promised to work closely with the Moroccan government to provide assistance. Meanwhile, the South Korean embassy in Morocco reported no South Korean casualties so far and stated that the 77 South Koreans attending the UNESCO Global Council meeting are safe and expected to return home as early as tomorrow. Shifting gears to local news. Busan City is now joining Seoul and Gwangju in seeking an ordinance to regulate political banners in the city. The Planning and Finance Committee member Lee Seung-woo announced today that he has proposed an amendment to the Busan Metropolitan City Outdoor Advertising Act. The amendment suggests that political banners should be placed on designated boards with a limit of 4 or fewer banners per 읍, 면, or dong, and it prohibits the use of hate speech or derogatory language on the banners. Busan City has announced that it will be promoting the World Expo 2030 Busan at the Thessaloniki International Fair in Greece this week. The exhibition includes zones for Korean industry content, Korea-Greece cultural exchange, the Busan Expo introduction, and Busan Initiative platform. The booth will have traditional tile designs, and the entrance will feature images with promotional phrases for the Busan Expo. Busan City has unveiled the second lineup for the 2023 Busan International Rock Festival to be held at Samnak Ecological Park on October 7th and 8th. The lineup includes 19 teams from 9 countries, including local electronic music group EDO Tape, the 3-member electronic band Glencheck, along with FT Island, Young K, and singer-songwriter Ha Hyun-sang. International artists include Australia's The Kid Laroi, UK's New Hope Club, and Japanese rock bands 10 Feet and Nulbarich. In international news, Morocco races against time to rescue survivors trapped under the rubble from Friday's earthquake. Villagers are using manual labor to dig for survivors while response teams grapple with access to machinery. The 6.8 magnitude earthquake, the deadliest in over 60 years, struck remote mountain villages south of Marrakesh. The government confirmed over 2,100 fatalities and over 2,400 injuries, mostly in critical condition. Now for the local weather. It is currently 30 degrees Celsius in Busan under partly cloudy skies. Expect more clouds and overcast while mercury levels average at 27 degrees Celsius. It's time to wrap up this hour's news. Thank you for joining. You're listening to BEFM 부산 영어방송.
Your best choice. BEFM Busan 영어방송.
Coming up next is Steve Hatherly Reboot. BEFM 부산 영어방송.
What you're about to hear is amazing. That's because you're locked in to Busan's #1 English radio station. Whether you're at home, at work, or driving in your car, you will be exposed to radio excellence. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show because it starts right now.
Failing is something that we all do as humans, and we all as humans tend to fear it as well. Why? Because it's embarrassing, it's humiliating, particularly when it happens in front of other people or it becomes known to other people. Failure, though, at least according to experts, it's something that needs to be embraced. It seems counterintuitive, though, to get excited about something that we didn't achieve, but I'll tell you why we should today. It's Monday, September 11th, 2023. I'm Steve Hatherly. This is Steve Hatherly Reboot. Let's go. That was Jonas Blue. Why don't we? Don't wake me up. Jonas Blue, if you don't know, is a multi-platinum producer, and Why Don't We is an LA-based boy band with 5 different members. Don't Wake Me Up. It tells a heartfelt tale about a young guy who doesn't know if he can make his significant other happy. Apparently, he wants to make their relationship work and desires to embrace his partner once again in the near future. Furthermore, he feels his partner's warm love every time he closes his eyes to sleep. Therefore, he tells his partner, "A million miles away, I feel you with me. For now, our love will live inside my mind." Kind of a happy message, kind of a sad message at the same time. Nice song, though, to get us into the show today. We are live from Busan on this Monday afternoon. Welcome to the show, everyone. You're tuned in on BEFM 90.5 in Busan and 103.3 FM in the Gijang, Zhongguan, and Noksan areas. In Seoul on TBS EFM 101.3 and in Gwangju on GFN 98.7. Thank you very much for being with us to kick off your week. I'm your host, Steve Hatherly, and we have a busy Monday afternoon in the chat already. I'm loving it this afternoon. Listeners from everywhere today. Nur is down there in Malaysia, enjoying the falling rain. Apparently, it hasn't rained in Malaysia for a very long time, and Nur is thankful about that. She says, finally, I can stop complaining about the weather. I want to come back to that point in just a second, actually. Umberto's listening today. Let me see. Mina Lee is listening today. Good afternoon to you. Leslie Perkins. I want to say hello to Leslie because Leslie, I think... Leslie, you're joining the program for the very first time, right? You're in Colorado. Napidi, we have a listener in Colorado in the United States, which the Denver Broncos are my favorite football team, by the way, Leslie. They did not win today, which totally ruined my morning, but I'm okay now after a coffee this afternoon. Leslie listens to the morning news show, and the algorithm finally led her to our program in the afternoon. So, Leslie, welcome to the show. Thank you for not sleeping tonight. It's 11 p.m. in Colorado. Apparently, Leslie sleeps typically at this time, but not today. Hey, Leslie, I guess it's my job to convince you to change your sleeping schedule so that you can join us every single day. Umberto in the chat, Nur in the chat. I put that responsibility onto you as well to convince Leslie to join us on a daily basis. All right, so let's talk about the weather a little bit, shall we? Nur says, oh, finally it started raining in Malaysia, so I don't have to complain about the weather anymore. I was talking about this with my wife maybe a couple of weeks ago, and then I think I mentioned it to NAPD as well, or to somebody else here at work. I said, you know, Earth is a beautiful place. The planet is stunning. So gorgeous. The beaches, the skies, the sunshine, the temperatures during certain times of year. But at the same time, and by the way, I'm not talking about global warming. It seems like it's human nature that we nonstop complain about the weather. We as human beings are complainers, are we not? It's too hot. Oh, the sun is too hot today. I don't like it. Oh, it's raining too much. No, why is it raining? I hate the rain. What? Oh, I miss the sun. If it's not there, we miss it. If it is there, we complain about it too much, right? And the weather, of course, in the wintertime, maybe depending on where you are in the world, you'll have winter or you won't. Trust me, in Canada, we very much have winter. In Malaysia, I guess you have winter, but winter is a relative term. You don't get the snowstorms, that we do get in Canada during the wintertime. Anyway, I was just thinking about that because, you know, it's been hot and humid and sticky, and I was complaining, oh my gosh, it's too humid here. But when the winter comes around, we're going to complain here that it's too cold, and oh, I can't wait for summertime to come. I guess it's just what we do, huh? Anyway, I digress. Quick note on YouTube, you can watch our live stream until the music starts to play. At that point, the music will fade out immediately, and the reason for that is because of music copyright issues. We apologize for that inconvenience. It's extremely uncomfortable for us and for you as well. We acknowledge that, and we appreciate your patience there. At some point in the future, we hope that that changes, but the workaround right now is when the songs start to play, you have the BEFM app, right? You should have it by now. You can listen to the songs through the app, or of course, if you're here in the Busan area, you can listen through FM radio. or in Seoul or in Gwangju, of course, you can listen through FM radio. But that's the way that it needs to be done. Again, we apologize for that inconvenience, and hopefully it'll change at some point. All right, let's get to what's on the show today, shall we? Coming up in hour number one, we'll kick things off with today's Hot Off the Press, where you will check out some of the newest, hottest tracks from the world of music. I will give you a little bit about the artist and a little bit about the song as well. After that, Need to Know Time, and Casey will be in the studio. It is our new segment here on the show, and Casey brings in under-the-radar stories from outside of the mainstream media news cycle, but still stuff that we need to know, hence the title of the segment. Casey will stay with me for what remains of hour number one. Then for hour number two, for our fun fact of the day. Well, in the opening of the show, I was talking about failure. And we're going to talk about failure through Me, Myself, and I in hour number two as well. But oftentimes I was thinking about failure and where we fail regularly, right? And then that led me to interview questions because, of course, we get excited about interviews. If you have a prospective job where you're preparing for an interview, we enjoy the excitement of that. But the interview itself can be stressful. It can be really, really stressful. So sometimes we fail at the interview, or at least at some of the questions that are posed. So I thought for today, I found a list of 12 tough interview questions and answers with some helpful tips as well. So maybe if you have a job interview coming up at some point in the future, then you might find this useful today. 12 is the number, of course. I'm not going to get through all 12, but I'll pick out maybe 3 or 4 or 5. We'll see how we go with time. Then yes, for Me, Myself, and I, we'll move on to that. And we're going to talk about failing. And we as human beings, we fear failure. We hate it. The word itself doesn't sound good. Fail. It's very cacophonic, isn't it? Failure. Failure is something we dread. We try to avoid it, but we shouldn't. As human beings, we can learn a lot from failing. As a matter of fact, experts say that we learn more from failing than we do from succeeding, which sounds completely counterintuitive, but according to experts, that's the way it is. So I'll talk about that story once we get into our segment, Me, Myself, and I. We'll also have Today in Music, where we'll find out what happened in today's music history, and I will be checking your messages throughout the program as well. I've started already, haven't I? All right, here's our question today. Actually, you know what? I wanted to make 2 questions for you today. You can answer one or the other, or you can answer both. Here's the first one. Tell me about a time that you failed. Now, this doesn't have to be a big dramatic story. If you don't want it to be, you don't need to share. It can be something very simple. Maybe a time that you tried to get your driver's license when you were 16 years old, but you failed. You failed the test. Or maybe it was your first boyfriend, your first girlfriend, your first romantic partner, and you failed because of X, Y, or Z, whatever reason. Whatever it is, it makes no difference at all. A time that you failed. 여러분이 실패했을 때를 이야기해 주세요. We all have 1,000 stories, not 1,000, 1,000,000, 10 million. We all have a lot of stories of failing in our lifetimes. And failing is okay. So don't feel bad about it. You're going to have to wait for hour number 2 to realize why you shouldn't feel bad about it. But think about a time where you failed. Big story, small story, makes no difference to me at all. But just let me know. And then I'll tell you a couple of times that I failed in my own life this afternoon as well. Think about that question. And then, since we're going to be talking about tough interview questions and some tips on how to answer those in the second hour, I wanted to know this from you. What do you think is a really, really tough interview question? 나피디 한국말로 인터뷰 어떻게 말하죠? 인터뷰이나 면접 감사합니다. 면접할 때 되게 어려운 질문 무엇입니까? What do you think? When you have an interview, what question do you think? I hate that kind of question. Tell me. I want to know today. Send me your answer. So think about that one as well. 2 questions for you today. Text me #9050. That will cost you 101. Add us on Kakao Talk for free and send in messages for free. Search BEFM or 부산영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can download the app from any of the app stores. You can listen to our programs there and leave us some comments after logging in. We'll take a break and come back with today's Hot Off the Press. Here is Talk, Runaway to Mars. That was Talk, Runaway to Mars. We are back, and it's time for today's Hot Off the Press, where from Monday to Friday, we bring you 2 of the newest, hottest tracks from the world of music. And of course, a lot of songs are released every week, and we choose a couple each day that we hope that you'll enjoy. Imagine Dragons has a new song. This is called Children of the Sky, a Starfield song. Imagine Dragons have released Children of the Sky. It's a song created for upcoming sci-fi role-playing game, Starfield. Not the shops not the department stores that we find here in Korea, which have the same name, I believe. This isn't the first time a video game company has enlisted a pop star to create a song for its game. Frontman Dan Reynolds said the song, like the game, asks some of the most difficult questions we face as humans trying to find our place in the universe. Bethesda created iconic games we've been playing for most of our lives, and we are honored to have collaborated on this song for Starfield. After that, we'll hear Naive Ella, Car Park. Winning fans with her potent indie pop confessionals melded to the ambience of 90s guitar pop, Ella has charted an impressive rise to notoriety since the release of her debut single. That was called Girlfriend, and that came out last year. Describing her new song, Ella said, "Car Park is the acknowledgement that relationships aren't always perfect and they take hard work from both ends. But having that constant in your life, that person being there for you and loving you despite your flaws, well, that makes it all worthwhile." Here we go with our two tracks for Hot Off the Press today. New from Imagine Dragons, Children of the Sky, a Starfield song, and then new from Naive Ella, Car Park. Those were our two tracks for Hot Off the Press today. Naive Vela, Car Park, and before that, new from Imagine Dragons, Children of the Sky, a Starfield song. That one's for a video game. That's kind of cool. Question of the day today. Tell me, well, we have two, don't we? Number one, tell me about a time that you failed. And number two, what do you think is a difficult interview question? 첫 번째 질문, 여러분이 실패했을 때를 이야기해 주세요. 두 번째 질문, 면접할 때 되게 어려운 질문이 무엇입니까? Let's see what you're saying so far today. Nurse says, why did you quit your job from your previous company? Nurse says it's the easiest question, but at the same time, it's a tough question too. Yeah, right. What are you supposed to say? I mean, you can't be honest. But you can't say, because I hated my boss and my coworkers were evil and I worked with like 25 different devils and I couldn't wait to get out of that building and never, ever go back again. That's an honest answer. Why can't we say that? Why not? Because it makes you, quote, look bad? Does it make you, quote, look difficult? So what are we supposed to say? Oh, well, it was a really wonderful experience working there for very little money and too many hours and people who didn't respect me at all. But I loved it. No, why not? Why can't we just be honest at interviews? That's what I would love to hear. I agree with you, nerd. That's a tough one. Leslie says, the dreaded interview question. Tell me about a time you had a difficult time with a coworker. What was the situation and how was it resolved? Well, the honest answer would be, I hated them. That's why it was tough. And the situation never really resolved itself, and now I don't have to deal with it, thankfully, because I'm going to be working for you, right? That's what we want to say. But maybe what we have to say is completely different. Stay with us for hour number 2. I don't know if those questions pop up on my list of 12, but I'll see if I can find them in there and see how we can answer those questions. It's hard, isn't it, when you get a tough interview question, because you have to be fake. I mean, not 100% fake, but you're putting on your mask. You're putting on your show a little bit. Tell me about a time you failed. 여러분이 실패했을 때 이야기해 주세요. That's my first question. Question number 2. 면접할 때 되게 어려운 질문이 무엇입니까? Think about your answers and then text me, #9050. That will cost you 101. Add us on Kakao Talk for free and send in messages for free. Search BEFM or 부산영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can download the app from any of the app stores. You can listen to our programs there and leave us some comments after logging in. It is time for Need to Know on a Monday afternoon. Casey's here. How you doing, Casey? How's your Monday?
Oh, I'm enjoying it so far. Yes,
Yeah?
it's getting towards the end of it.
No Monday blues?
No. I had class this morning, and that was enough for me. I'm glad to be done with that. Moving on to the afternoon.
Couple of questions for you very quickly. Number 1, tell me about a time that you failed.
Just today or every day? Like, I think that's a daily occurrence.
That's a great way to answer in an interview, I think, if they ask that question. Oh, do you mean like this morning before I got here? Because there were like 5.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good answer. How about the next question?
Okay.
Tough interview questions. What interview questions do you really, really not like?
You know which one I hate? And I probably, it seems so simple, but it's like, what's your greatest weakness? I hate that one.
Yeah. How do you answer that?
I work too hard. Is that like what you're supposed to say or something?
Yeah, I'm too smart.
Yeah, overachiever. Like, what?
I'm so kind.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Too kind.
Yeah, I'm too generous.
Right.
That's a tough one. I think that is on my list in hour number 2, actually. Maybe we'll get to that later. All right, Casey, it is time for Need to Know. You are here to bring us some under-the-radar stories from outside the mainstream media, but they're still important, and we still need to know. So what do we need to know today?
Well, today I want to start with a story that's out of this world. Maybe. It's a big maybe. And it's just kind of been in the news. Again, it's kind of under the radar, but like if you're into this kind of cycle of news, you're going to see it pop up everywhere. So what it is about something that may have come to Earth from elsewhere. But the key figure behind the story is a guy named Avi Loeb. He's an astronomer at Harvard, kind of well-known place if you're not familiar. It's a university in the U.S. And he's also well-known for his views that he likes to search for alien artifacts, so put it this way. And he has a lot of beliefs in that there are other things out there in the world, or in the universe, in the universe, and we're not alone. So a few years ago, what happened was basically Loeb and a PhD student at Princeton named Amir Siraj, they were under the understanding that there was a meteor that blew up in the sky near Papua New Guinea in 2014, and the idea was it came from interstellar space. So interstellar is like kind of the key word here, meaning not from our solar system. Also a good movie. This object was called Interstellar Meteor Number 1, or IM1, and it was just a few feet wide. But the weird thing about it was traveling at a very high speed that would be inconsistent with something from our solar system.
Okay.
So that's kind of the selling point, right? Also, the U.S. Space Command eventually confirmed that IM1 was interstellar, but they used classified sensor data. The U.S. government. So there are a lot of scientists who are like, come on, guys, like, for real? There's a lot of people casting doubt on this, but the Siraj and Loeb, basically, they have since identified another potential interstellar meteor called IM2, very creative. And this one burst into like a fireball near Portugal in 2017. So they're like, okay, this is something that's happening.
So what's the significance of these two events then?
So basically, this kind of inspired them to actually do a search for fragments.
Oh, in the places where the explosions took place.
They started with the Papua New Guinea one first. So just this year, they had this expedition during the summer, and they looked on the seafloor north of Papua New Guinea in the Pacific Ocean, in case you're not sure.
Okay.
So they found these spherules, as they call them.
What's a spherule? Is that like a little tiny sphere-shaped something?
You got it.
Okay.
That's exactly it. So it's tiny, tiny spheres, and they've been studying since finding them. A lot of these are really microscopic, so you have to use, a microscope, obviously, to look. But they said 5 of them have unusually high abundance of the elements beryllium, lanthanum, and uranium. And a lot of the researchers that have studied these kinds of objects said these are kind of unusual in the solar system. So this could be that they are from outside our solar system.
Unusual meaning this is not possible to find these elements in our solar system, or, oh, that's possible, but it's unlikely, but yet here it is.
Are you ready? Science fight, nerd fight, in fact.
Yeah.
This is where the big contention lies. Like, some people say, like, okay, maybe we just don't know enough about our own things on Earth yet to say that it's not possible from our solar system.
Okay.
Whereas some of the other scientists are on team like, hey, this is weird, this is unfamiliar, this is, probably something that could be from out of our solar system. Plus, Loeb has made some comments that it could be, he did say it could be, extraterrestrial technological origin. There you go.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
Go ahead.
And I'm not saying he's wrong.
Right.
But I'm just saying we have to kind of take this with a grain of salt, because Mr. Loeb had set out with the intention, he had the mindset already before he went into this research. Before he started his expedition, he had a preconceived notion. So, is that what they call confirmation bias? When you want to find things to support you, I might be using the wrong term there. When you want to find things to support something that you already have in your mind because you want to believe it more strongly. Maybe. That was the first kind of little flag that popped up when you were talking there.
Well, it's not it has not only popped up for you, I'll put it that way. He seems to have a particular enemy at Arizona State University.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's so good. I'm enjoying this heavily. So, like you said, some people have expressed this idea that he's kind of reaching to things that he will find the conclusion he wants if he goes that way.
That's the point I was trying to make, yeah.
He's got an interesting pushback for that, though. He's also saying that people are being so close-minded that they're not willing to consider these ideas. So this is where the rub lies.
Which is also a fair point.
It is a fair point. But just to give you some idea of what people are pushing back, this Steve Desch is an astrophysicist at Arizona State University. And he says, very similar to what you said, it's clear that Loeb is just searching for non-natural explanations when natural explanations exist for a lot of things. He does get a little bit even more, direct in his commentary. He said there's absolutely no reason to have this data rushed out because they have done so without having a peer-reviewed journal yet. Publication, right? So they're kind of releasing this information early.
Yep.
And he said, if there is some scrutiny or some questions that have been taking place, okay, but don't put the data up there, telling what you think it is. Let people think for themselves what it is. And he said, saying maybe it's alien technology. Come on.
So how did Mr. Loeb respond to this criticism then?
This is the pushback. So I actually brought a clip of him. He's being interviewed about this a lot. And I think he explains himself fairly clearly in why he pushes back.
The way I see it is similar to those theologians who argue that they don't need to look through Galileo's telescope because they know the answer. The root of the problem is having an opinion and a prejudice and behaving as if you are the adult in the room. And one of the most traumatic experiences that I had as a kid was asking a difficult question and seeing the adults in the room dismissing it because they pretended to know the answer. And I thought that by becoming a scientist, I will be able to pursue the truth myself by collecting evidence. But what do I find? That the scientists around me just pretend to know more than they actually know and have a very strong opinion. So it's déjà vu. And of course, it's very appealing for us to claim that we are the only intelligent beings that ever existed since the Big Bang. But to me, that sounds like an extraordinary claim that, in fact, my daughters thought that they are at the center of the world, that they are the smartest when they were young at home. And obviously, they had a psychological shock on the first day in the kindergarten. And they would much rather stay at home and have the illusion, which is pretty much what my colleagues prefer, not to seek any data that violates the assertion that we are special and unique and there is nobody like us anywhere. And I say, let's just consider that as a possibility and check our backyard for any objects that may have arrived from far away and have a postal stamp from another civilization that might be far more advanced than we are, because they arrived to our doorstep before we arrived to their doorstep.
I mean, was it Copernicus or Galileo that was jailed, I think?
Galileo, yep.
Galileo was jailed for his suggestions about what the universe was. And
right.
It turned out to be true.
Yeah.
Not saying that this Mr. Loeb is, going to turn out to be right, but at the same time, it sounds like people are just dismissing him for the sake of dismissing him, or maybe it's just because we are so unfamiliar with these things that that's just a human nature thing to reject things that we're not familiar with, at least initially.
Right, and that's, I think, why he used the analogy of his daughters going to kindergarten for the first day to kind of, it was a nice illustration. I was like, fair point.
Yeah, right. I'm not sure how many, points he gets for the, let's all go look in our backyards for things from outer space. I don't know if that point really hit home with a lot of people, but at the same time, he's a scientist. He has his beliefs and he has things that he thinks he found and he wants to talk about it. So right. I get that too. Interesting. All right, Napidi, how about we skip the song break today? We'll just keep going if that's right. Anything more on this story before we keep going?
Yeah, this story is not finished by any means.
Oh, let's go. Let's keep going then.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the future, you're probably going to hear about the results of this. So there's going to be further study about this. And like I said, this was kind of a pre-published release of their information, which is a little uncommon. But another thing that he said was that he really wanted to keep the public aware of what they're discovering because as we were talking about briefly a moment ago, the United States Space Command has information, but it's classified.
Yeah.
He disagrees with that.
By the way, did you hear about the new website from the U.S. government?
No.
You didn't hear about that?
Oh, what's my government up to now?
No. They launched a website where they're putting previously classified videos of alien or UFOs.
Right. What's the new term? I forget.
Things like that. It's supposed to be UPA or something, but everybody says UFO.
Right.
Anyway, there's a new website. I can find that for you if you want to.
I love this stuff. I love the universe and like all the questions about it. So this is fun for me, but it's also like a scientist fight, and that's just really fun to watch from the sidelines and like not know anything about it. Just you get them, buddy.
You only understand 35% of the vocabulary they're using with each other, right?
If that.
So like you said, there are going to be results published at some point in the future.
Yep, and also they plan to have another mission to find more pieces of other artifacts. So the search has not, stopped here as well.
Huh.
They're planning another trip to find more stuff. So, yeah, he says he wants to find, evidence. He did use another analogy, like explaining some of the spacecraft we've sent way far out into space. If that were to crash into a planet, it would be maybe reduced to the same size of what we found here. So I was like, yeah, fair enough. I mean, who knows if somebody sent something long, long ago.
I think that's the point. Nobody knows
That's
yet,
it.
right? So we shouldn't be so dismissive until we have some sort of definitive answer.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll keep our ears and eyes peeled for that one. All right, what's your next story about then?
Okay, so this one was obviously, these are professionals who are, they have a very specific study that they followed and they're very good at what they do and famous, obviously. But have you ever had any just hobbies for fun, something you just wanted to do that other people might consider a waste of time?
Video games, I think a lot of people consider a waste of time. For me, it's just a time to turn off my brain so that I don't have to think about anything else. But not everybody's on board with games or gaming.
Okay, well, gaming actually is one of those things that could start as a hobby and lead to a profession even, right? Especially these days, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So this story is kind of like that. So there's a guy his name is Erland Bohr. He's 51 years old, and he lives on a mountainous southern island in Norway. And earlier this year, he went to go see his doctor, and the doctor's like, hey, buddy, you got to stop watching the TV, get off the couch, just go get yourself a hobby, get out of the house.
Okay.
So he went with this route. He decided to buy a metal detector. Have you ever seen somebody using one?
I've only seen it on television or in the movies. I've never actually witnessed a person on the beach with the beep, 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 trying to find stuff, yeah.
But I think the assumption is well, that's a waste of time. I think a lot of people might assume that.
Yeah, you might find a few coins or something, but other than that, probably nothing too valuable.
Right, that's usually what we would assume, and I would totally assume that. But this August, he just started walking around his island with the detector, and now he's making news headlines because he discovered something very quickly after he started his new hobby. He thought it was chocolate money, sometimes it's in a gold foil or something.
Oh,
those little coins.
Right.
Right. So he thought somebody threw some garbage in the soil. And then he dug a little further and he's like, he discovered 9 gold pendants.
No.
3 gold rings and 10 gold pearls all at once.
Wow.
So he is now making headlines, and you'll probably, again, this is a kind of under the radar story, but this is a huge discovery.
He found a pirate's treasure?
Kind of. I mean, yeah. I guess the Vikings were up in Norway. They're kind of pirates, right?
Wow.
So, according to the director at the Archaeological Museum at the University of Stavanger, which is right in the region, finding so much gold at the same time is extremely unusual.
Finding gold anywhere with a metal detector is extremely unusual.
Right.
So what is he going to do with this? Is he required to turn this over to the proper authorities, or is this his property?
It's not his property.
No, because he found it on property that didn't belong to him, right?
Actually,
I'm guessing.
It's a specific law in Norway that they say in the articles that objects it's very specific, from before 1537 for general objects and coins older than 1650 are considered state property and must be handed in, I assume, no matter where you find it.
And that law was written on August 31st, 2023.
Exactly. Right. They're like, wait, quick, to the books.
Somebody make a law up quick.
Yeah.
I'm looking at an image of these doubloons. What do you call these?
Oh, these are called bracteates, the big coins that you see there. Yeah, it was a new word for me as well. So those are kind of like pendants is another term they call them. And then you can see the little round objects. They refer to those as gold pearls.
Okay.
And then there are some rings in there as well, but they're not as cool as the coins. The coins are the coolest thing. And I could totally want to bite into one and think it's chocolate.
I guess he or the authorities, they don't know the value of these things yet.
No, they haven't put a value at them as far as I'm aware of, but they are probably worth some money. And it's the historical value, because this is such a rare find. They know what they are, but finding these all together is really rare. So these are called, like I said, bracteates are the coins, but it's all probably part of one necklace that somebody used to wear. Can you imagine walking around with that?
It's bling from the 1600s.
For sure.
So he found this not too far from the surface of the sand. He was on a beach?
Like I said, it's an island. They didn't, and it's a mountainous island at that. So they didn't say the exact location, but they did say he did the right thing, which I didn't know there was a right thing. Speaking of failure, when he found the treasure and kind of confirmed that it was indeed treasure, he marked the spot and stopped what he was doing. So he then contacted like his local municipality, and then they sent people over, and they were like, "Oh, we're so glad that you did that."
No. Bro's got like 3 left in his pocket.
Yeah, right. Jingle jangle. Just walking away.
Just in case they're worth like 1.5 mil each or something like that.
All right. It must be worth a lot of money.
Yeah, these will end up in a museum then, I would guess.
Yeah, the local museum actually. So the people that are working on digging them out and cleaning them up, as you can see in the pictures there, they're going to exhibit them at the Archaeological Museum in Stavanger. And I was thinking about that too, man. Like, his name will probably be associated with this find.
Whoop-de-doo.
Okay, you feel that way?
Yeah.
Just let him keep him?
Yeah. At least give him one. I don't know. You know, why do they have to put all of them on display? He is the one that found it, after all.
That is true.
Yeah, right.
So he's probably bummed, I guess, in some regard.
Exactly. Any more stories today? One more, yeah?
Well, yeah, actually, and I just want to kind of point out, like, why this is an interesting story, because I think a lot of times people get into hobbies and, like, you know, you might get judged for how you spend your free time, but you never know what a hobby can lead to for you. So just as Erland Bohr is now going to be associated with this discovery, I did want to let you know that there's a green comet coming by Earth. Do you know about this?
A green comet, I have not heard.
Okay, cool. So it's going to pass close to Earth tomorrow, September 12th. It'll be the closest proximity to Earth, and it might be the only chance humanity ever has to see it.
No way.
Yeah, and it's the comet is named Nishimura.
What does Dr. Loeb have to say about this?
Good question.
I bet he's on it already, right?
Good question. He's like, I know why it's green.
So what's the significance here? Like, is this dangerous? Is this what does this mean for us, if anything at all?
Well, one thing it means is, again, like if you just like stick with your hobbies, you might be very cool someday. So the comet's actually named after the person who discovered it, who's an amateur astronomer. His name is Hideo Nishimura, and he's from Japan. And he just was photographing the night sky on August 12th, just like roughly a month ago. He's got some pictures. He's like, oh, what's that? And then now the comet's named after him.
Oh, and it's never been seen before, and
Right.
there's a chance that it will never be seen again.
Because, yeah, it's going to go close to the sun and then kind of slingshot around using the sun's gravitational stuff, you know, all that science stuff. But it could get destroyed on the way. So there's a good chance this will be like one shot to see it.
Will this be visible for us to the naked eye if we look up in the sky?
It's going to be a little tough, especially if you're close to like a big city. But they say if you can kind of be away from big cities and especially like pre-dawn hours, if you look to the east, so like if you know, in Busan would probably not be a bad place to see it. If you can get into a dark enough spot, you're going to have to look close to the horizon.
Okay.
And it'll be like a green blob with like a white tail behind it.
Okay.
But, yeah, so they do recommend if you have like binoculars or a telescope, of course, but perhaps when it's the closest tomorrow, we might be able to see with the naked eye. So it's a big maybe.
That is pretty cool, though, isn't it?
Right?
Nicely done. Will you be up and about looking for that? I'm curious to know. Does that pique your interest, or will you just read about it on the internet tomorrow?
Actually, I would really love to wake up early enough to do it, but the odds of me doing that are very slim.
I mean, for me, if it was you described it as off in the faint, distance.
Yeah.
Check out the horizon. You might see a green dot with a little white tail behind it. That's it. I know what my reaction would be if I saw it. I would be like, oh, there it is.
Right.
And then I would go back to bed.
Probably. Why did I wake
and
up?
read about the significance on the internet the next day. Hence my question that I asked you 30 seconds ago. Very good. Very interesting stories, Casey. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure.
Yeah, enjoy your week, and we'll see you again next time.
All right, take care.
Please do stay with us for hour number 2 today. We'll wrap up the first with this from J.P. Cooper, the acoustic version of September Song.
My love is strong as a lion.
BEFM 부산 영어방송.
구 년 전 한국에서의 새로운 출발을 위해 부산을 처음 찾은 프랭크. 부산의 자연과 사람, 부산에서 누리는 모든 것을 사랑하는 그는 부산의 변함없는 한대에 늘 감탄합니다.
I think that Busan people are actually very, very kind and very welcoming. If I seemed a little lost, there was always someone that was there to ask me if I needed help. They're more seriously friendly than it's very serious. I very seriously want to help you.
부산의 한결같은 모습도 늘 감동을 주지만 이제는 부산의 미래를 꿈꾸며 2030년 부산의 새로운 도약을 기대합니다.
Busan people are very proud of their city. They want to share the city with everyone. If we get the World Expo, it'll really put Busan on a global map.
세계 박람회가 어울리는 도시, 미래를 향한 힘찬 도약. 부산에서 출발한 파도는 이미 세계를 향해 뻗어 나가고 있습니다. 2030 부산 세계 박람회. 부산이 시작하고 대한민국이 함께 이뤄갑니다. 이 캠페인은 지역과 함께하는 든든한 동반자 BNK 부산은행과 함께합니다.
엑스포, 세계를 놀라게 할 준비됐습니까? 세상에 없던 세상을 바꿀 당신이 처음 만나는 새로운 엑스포의 시작. 오늘의 세상을 바꾸고 내일의 상상을 펼쳐갈 세계를 열광시킬 단 하나의 엑스포. 대한민국 첫 번째 월드클래스 엑스포 2030 부산 세계 박람회. 새로운 엑스포를 원해? 부산에 유치해.
친환경에 필요한 거? 내 몸. 한 정거장 거리 정도는 걷기. 엘리베이터 대신 계단. 플러그 뽑으면서 스쿼트까지. 몸 좀 움직였을 뿐인데 건강 아끼고 환경 아끼는 친환경 피지컬.
심으뜸과 함께 시작해볼까요?
공익광고 협의회.
The time is now 3 o'clock.
You're listening to Steve Hatherly Reboot on BEFM 90.5. You just heard Sasha Sloan, Is It Just Me? She is a singer and songwriter, and her debut album, Only Child, was released in October of the year 2020. Not only has the talented singer been making big moves in her career, she also made sure to include interactive opportunities with her audience. She's opened a fan community forum that can be accessed by calling the number at the end of the Lie music video, for the song Lie, L-I-E, Lie. At the end of that video, there's a number there, and you can call that. And then once you're in the community, fans can leave Sasha notes and poems and lyrics and more, which she will read and interact with her audience, providing an outlet for those who wish to express themselves through their creativity. That's kind of a cool idea. Really cool idea. Very unique, actually. Interacting with audience members is not unique, but in that fashion, that's a clever idea. That tune got us into the second hour of Steve Hatherly Reboot on this Monday afternoon. Thank you very much for staying with us. You're tuned in on BEFM 90.5 in Busan and 103.3 FM in the Gijang, Zhongguan, and Noksan areas, in Seoul on TBS EFM 101.3 and in Gwangju on GFN 98.7. Coming up in hour number 2 today, we'll start with some tough interview questions and maybe see if we can't find some solutions on how to answer those questions. And I think maybe we'll have a look at why the interviewers are asking the questions too, because if we can understand where they are coming from, they being the company, the interviewer, the interviewers that are interviewing you, then maybe it'll help us come up with better answers and maybe help us to prepare in advance a little better for those types of questions as well. Then after that, me, myself, and I. Well, once you go to your job interview, you might get a bunch of unexpected questions and you might fail the interview. But it's not the end of the world, because we as people learn from failure. And not only do we learn from failure, it is the best opportunity for us to learn. Experts say that we learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. So I know what you're thinking, because this is what I was thinking. So what? We're supposed to just go out there and fail all day, every day? Well, I guess no, right? But that was my response when I was reading about this. I thought, yeah, no, probably not a great thing in your life if you're failing all day, every day. But at the same time, a little failure every once in a while is actually good for people, they say. And I'll talk about that through me, myself, and I. Then we'll have Today in Music. We'll find out what happened in today's music history, and I'll check your messages throughout hour number 2 of the show as well. Question of the day today. Well, I have 2 questions for you. Tell me about a time that you failed. 여러분이 실패했을 때를 이야기해 주세요. That's one of my questions. And then the other question was, 인터뷰할 때 진짜 어려운 질문 무엇입니까? 희숙님 says, I think that this question might be difficult. If the interviewer asked, what do you think is the most valuable thing in life? Yeah, that would be a tough question. Because you might be thinking, well, of course, you would say family or friends or health. Health is always number one, right? If you don't have your health, then you can't really have anything else. But after that, what are you supposed to say, right? Do you put their company name as the most valuable thing in life? That seems a bit dramatic, I would say. Yeah, that would be a tough question. Thanks for sending that in, Hisu. In terms of failure, Hannah says this. We'll be bouncing back and forth between those 2 questions today, by the way. Hannah says, something that I failed. I failed myself. I set a goal of getting at least 10,000 steps a day, but it's been getting less than that for the past couple of days. Oops. The number is decreasing consistently. Well, at least you're consistent, Anna. That's a good thing, right? 10,000. I've never tried, to be honest with you. I've never had a step counter. What do you call them? Step counter, count stepper, whatever. I've never had it. I don't know. Wasn't that theory dispelled? Was it not? Maybe I should do that for tomorrow's fun fact of the day. The 10,000 rule. 10,000 hours to being an expert at something. 10,000 steps a day. Maybe I'll visit that tomorrow as my fun fact of the day. I thought that was dispelled, but maybe that theory still exists. That's a lot, though, isn't it? 10,000 steps a day? I mean, is that even a reasonable number? That seems unreasonable to me, particularly if you commute to work through public transportation or if you drive, something like that. Then that's going to be tough to achieve. Why did you want to, why, Hannah? I'm curious to know, if you don't mind telling me. I'm curious to know why would you like to fulfill that 10,000 step requirement. Jin Young says, in terms of the interview question, Jin Young says, today's answer, it is the worst interview question for me. Tell me about your strengths and weaknesses. I think that's what Casey mentioned, right? She said, I don't know why interviewers want to hear an interviewee's weaknesses. Jin Young says, as far as I know, I don't have any weaknesses, so I have nothing to talk about. I should have answered like that. I have no weaknesses. I'm not entirely sure that's the right answer or not, Jin Young, but I believe, if I just pop ahead a few pages here, I think that one is on my list of things to talk about today. That is tough, though, isn't it? Tell me about your weaknesses. Tell me, it's kind of like, so tell me, what do you think? What do you think is wrong with you in terms of, your work self? That's hard. That's a tough one to answer. Oner on the chat says, I would want to avoid any questions that were very specific. I can just talk around those questions if they become too specific. Yeah, I think that's a good skill to have in life. It's the skills that politicians have, right? It's the skills that radio announcers have. Being able, if they want to avoid answering a particular question, they can become very talkative suddenly and be able to speak around or walk around a topic without answering the question at all, as a matter of fact. It's a good skill to have in interviews as well, because if you think, I don't want to answer this question, or, I don't know how to answer this question, then having the ability to be able to talk around it for a particular length of time is a very useful skill indeed. Useful in marriage, too, from my estimation. That's a joke. Great answers. Keep them coming in and tell me about a time that you failed, and also tell me about tough interview questions. In your opinion, the toughest interview questions. 여러분이 실패했을 때를 이야기해 주세요. That's one question. And interview할 때 어려운 질문. 무엇입니까? Let me know those, both of those answers. Text me, #, 9050. That's on your cell phone for 101. Add us on Kakao Talk for free and send in messages for free by searching BEFM or 부산영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can download the app from any of the app stores. Search BEFM or 부산영어방송. You can listen to our programs there and leave us some comments after logging in. All right, question of the day. We covered that, so now it's time to get to our expression, and it's from King the Land. And in this scene, the boss at the duty-free shop has gotten angry at her employees, and she is telling them about their punishment, about what they will not be able to do anymore. And unfortunately for the employees, they will be working on the weekends from now on. And this is what that sounds like.
앞으로 금토일은 아무도 휴무 못 써.
Oh, it's so fast, right? So fast. She said this. Let's slow this way down. 앞으로 금토일은 아무도 휴무 못 써. Okay, let's go through it and see what it means. 앞으로 means in the future or from now on. 금토일 refers to 금요일, 토요일, 일요일, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But when spoken, people cut it in half, right? They shorten it. They say 금토일. And in Korean, people will do that when they're listing many different days. For example, if they say Monday, they'll say 월요일. But if they say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they'll say 월수금. 월요일, 수요일, 금요일, because it's just easier and everybody knows what it means, right? That's a good little tip to know, actually. Moving on. 아무도, anybody, or in this context, nobody. 휴무 means off of work, to be off of work, and then the last word, 써, to use. So let's go through it again. 앞으로, in the future, or from now on. 금토일은, on the weekends, right? From the weekends. 아무도 휴무 못 써. Nobody can take the weekend off. And that was the translation on the screen. No one is allowed to take the weekend off. All right, so let's have a look at this in English now. Take the weekend off. We can use another example. Take the day off. Take the month off. If you're lucky, take the year off. That's very rarely used, though, isn't it? Not too many times we can take the year off. And it means to take a break, to not go to work on that particular day, or to not go to school on that particular day. You can also say take some time off. What are you doing these days? Are you busy? No, I'm taking some time off from work. This is a very commonly used expression in English, to take time off or take the day off. So what you do is you separate the words take and off, and then put the amount of time in there. The weekend, the day, the month, the year. Can we use this with a smaller increment of time? Can I say, hey, take 5 minutes off. Let's have a coffee. Take 5 minutes off of your work. Can I say like that? You can. You can say like that, but it's more common that we use it with a day, a weekend, a month, or a year, or a larger amount of time. So that's how it is in English. In Korean, one more time, she said it super quickly. 앞으로 금토일은 아무도 휴무 못 써.
앞으로 금토일은 아무도 휴무 못 써.
Even after it's written on the paper in front of me, and she speaks it so quickly. I still can't follow it, even though I'm trying to read along. All right, those are your expressions for English and Korean. I hope that helps you out. I think it helped me out. I'm not sure. 앞으로 금토일은 아무도 휴무 못 써. Okay. We'll come back with our fun fact of the day. Here is D4VD, pronounced David, for some reason, here with me. That was David here with me, and now it's time for our fun fact of the day. And for our fun fact of the day today, I thought, we're talking about interview questions, and I thought it would be fun. You never hear the words fun and interview questions in the same sentence, do you? Well, let me rephrase that. An interesting concept to look at some tough interview questions and answers and see if we can figure out why those questions are being asked and maybe how to answer those questions as well. Have you had a tough interview in your life? I think we've all had tough interviews, right? Where they didn't really go according to plan. I remember when I was 19 years old. I was in university at the time at St. Mary's University in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I was looking for a part-time job. Now, at the time, I had an earring in my left ear. It was a loop. No, was it a stud or a loop? I forget, but it was in the upper part of my ear, and I liked it. Probably didn't look amazing, but I liked it. So I went for a job interview at the Naval Club. Now, the Naval Club is on the naval base in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and it's a bar. It's a bar where the sailors go to have dinner and have some drinks, I guess. So I went there for an interview. And when I went to the interview, I didn't take out my earring. I just left it in. I didn't think it was a big idea. And I was interviewed by 4, and I don't know their rank, but they had a lot of stripes on their shirts. I know that. And they were older. And anyway, they asked me, so what would you do if someone, one of the customers or a couple of the customers gave you a hard time about your earring? And I said, I would just ignore it. I would be here to serve their food and drinks and nothing more. So I wouldn't take offense to that. And then they said, well, what if they persisted? And I said, then I would persist in ignoring it and I wouldn't let it bother me. And I think they asked one more follow-up question. I didn't get that job. I failed the interview. But what I realized was they were probably wanting me to say, oh, I won't wear my earring when I come to work. That's probably what they wanted. But I just kept insisting, like, nah, no big deal. I'll just ignore it. I'll just ignore it. I didn't get that question, or I didn't get that job. And I've interviewed for other jobs that I haven't gotten in my life as well, and it's okay because that's part of failing. But let's go through and see if we can find some difficult interview questions that nobody really likes to answer. And this is number 1 on the list. Tell me about yourself. Now, this one never really bothered me, but I know for a lot of people, they're very uncomfortable with this type of question. I know this from my teaching days in Korea. Even teaching at a university level, I found that the students sometimes had a hard time introducing themselves. And it wasn't a language barrier. It was just that some people feel uncomfortable and they really, really don't know what to say when they're introducing themselves. So what they do say is that employers likely ask this question very early on in the process, and to answer it effectively, just give a short synopsis of number 1, your educational background, number 2, your professional career, and then number 3, highlight your proudest achievement or achievements and discuss how those achievements could be relevant in this job that you are applying for. Good advice there, right? So it's not just, hi, tell me your name and if you like pepperoni on your pizza. No, there's a point to that question. Number 2 is a tough one. What critical feedback? Remember, this is a list of very difficult interview questions. What critical feedback do you most often receive? Eek. Nobody wants to answer that. What critical feedback do you most often receive? This question, they say, is very similar to what are your greatest weaknesses? People have texted in today saying they hate that question. And employers ask it, this is why, to assess your sense of self-awareness and determine whether you're actively working on improving yourself. So to answer this question, think of a genuine piece of criticism that you've been given or a weakness that you are aware of that you have for yourself, along with ways in which you are working to overcome that weakness. Provide a brief explanation of the critique and how you're working on it. So for example, okay, so what's your greatest weakness? What are you criticized for? Well, I've been told that I tend to talk over other people in meetings. And yes, I get very excited about projects, but what I've realized is that I had a tendency to interrupt other people because I was too excited to share my own ideas. So now I've made it a point to listen actively and take notes about what I want to say and make sure I'm the last one to contribute until others are finished sharing. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good answer. It doesn't sound genuine to me, but at the same time, if it's true, then I guess it is genuine. So that's what experts say. Find a real thing, like a genuine thing, and then build your answer around that one. Let's scroll down and see what else we can find. This is tough. How do you handle stress? Ugh. You mean like right now? You could answer like that. Don't take job interview advice from me, by the way. That probably won't get you very many jobs. How do you handle stress? They say stress is a component in many jobs. Employers want to know that you can handle it constructively and manage more difficult duties while still maintaining a positive attitude. You can answer this question by explaining how you typically respond to stress with a supporting example. This shows employers that you're able to manage stressful situations well. For example, communication is key for me in stressful situations, even if over-communicating is necessary to ensure everyone understands the requirements of a project. For example, I was working on a project with another team, and we learned that there was duplicate work being done. By scheduling a weekly stand-up and establishing open lines of honest communication with our teams and managers, we completed the project on time. Yeah, I mean, doesn't it it sounds like a little bit, right? A little robotic, doesn't it? I don't know. I don't work in a typical office setting, so you should take my comments with a grain of salt, I suppose. Scrolling down, your biggest weakness question comes back again, so let's go over it. Employers may ask about your weaknesses to determine if you have a sense of self-awareness. They also ask it to determine how you're working to improve your skills. This is kind of just repeating itself, isn't it? So yeah, mention your weakness and then how you're trying to get over it, I suppose. And then here's that question. Why are you leaving your current position? That was you who mentioned that one, right? Why you're leaving your current position can be important information to employers to understand. It helps them ensure the opening is a better fit for your skill set and background. They might also ask it to make sure your reason for leaving wasn't because of your performance or your conduct. Answer this question honestly, but refrain from providing too many overly personal or negative details. Here's a sample answer. While I highly valued my time at the previous company I worked for, there are no longer many opportunities for growth that align with my career goals. This position aligns perfectly with my skill set, and it offers plenty of opportunities to advance my career over the next few years. Yeah, just AKA, don't be honest, I think, right? I mean, you can sprinkle in some honesty there, but you don't. If you were really, really, really unhappy at your previous position, don't say that. And don't badmouth your job or your boss or your previous coworkers. Just don't say anything negative about it. Just say the positive things that you took away, even if it's a struggle to find the positive things that you took away from that job. I think that's good advice, too. Here's the last one that we'll talk about. Why do you want to work here? Gotta work somewhere. That's probably the honest answer, right? But you can't say that. Employers often ask this question: why do you want to work at this company? They want to do that to make sure that you've thought about your decision to apply for employment there. This question might be particularly important if you're transitioning into a new industry or job. Be honest about why you chose to apply to that company and emphasize the intrinsic value the job can offer over extrinsic values such as higher pay or longer vacation days or better benefits or parking space or whatever those might be. Tough questions that are hard to answer. But here's the good news. If you know that there is a possibility that those questions will be posed to you, you can prepare for those types of answers in advance. And the internet is absolutely filled with advice on how to answer those questions as well. Yeah, good advice. I was thinking about the interviews that I've done where I was applying for jobs and the interviews where I've interviewed people who were interviewing for the show in a guest position many years ago. I did a lot of those types of things. And I remember the question that I would always ask, and I guess the shoe was on the other foot for me at that time, but I would always ask, why do you want to be on the radio? Why is this something that you want to do personally? And not one time did anyone get the answer right. The answer that I was looking for. What they would say was, well, I think this is a good opportunity for me to develop my personal skills. It's a good chance for me to build my resume for my future. Me, my. The minute I heard those words, I felt, I don't like that answer. The answer I was always looking for is something along the lines of, it's an honor and a treat to be able to work hard to entertain people, to make sure that their day is a little bit more fun or a little bit more pleasurable, or make them smile or make them laugh. Talking about other people rather than talking about themselves. So if you're listening and you ever plan on applying for this show, then please write that down and just repeat it verbatim back to me, and you'll probably be hired in an instant. Anyway, that is today's fun fact. We'll come back with me, myself, and I. We're going to talk about why failing is not something that we should be afraid of. Here is Noah Kahan and Joy Olagdokun, Someone Like You. back, and now it's time for Me, Myself, and I. That was Noah Kahan and Joy Oladokun with Someone Like You. And we were talking about tough interview questions before the break and what's the point of them and how we should answer them. And now it's time to talk about failure. And I thought those were kind of connected because interviews are tough, and it's always a lot of tough competition with interviews as well, right? It's oftentimes the case where there are many candidates for the job, and that can make it hard and stressful, and it can lead to failure. But how should we be looking at failure? Is it a terrible thing? Is it even a bad thing? It feels bad. It feels terrible. Human beings don't like it at all, but maybe we should be thinking differently. We humans don't learn as easily as we should. We learn better from direct experience than from others, and we learn better from failure than from success. What a weird thing to say. But why is that? What exactly do we learn after things go poorly? And most importantly, can we catalyze our learning from failure? Well, recent research suggests that we can. Aside from what evolution taught us as a species, we continuously learn throughout our lives, either from direct experience or socially from others. Learning socially from those close to us, from books, from peers, or from experts should be our go-to strategy. Think about it. It's easier. It's cheaper, and we have billions of humans on the planet to use as information sources. Unfortunately, though, what we learn from others does not stick with us so easily. So the important things we must learn by ourselves. But why does this happen? As adults, we rarely adopt a new perspective on a blank slate. More often than not, we replace an old perspective with a new one. And we do not find this comfortable. We don't like doing that at all. Old perspectives, old ways of thinking, they tend to cling to us. They cling to us for a very, very long time. There are many psychological and social mechanisms that prevent us from changing our minds, because unlearning an old way of thinking or an old perspective and then learning a new one, it takes us out of our comfort zone. We talked about our comfort zone last week. We often reject what others try to teach us, especially if they're super close to us in our lives. We simply don't want to listen. We adopt and internalize much better what we learn from direct experience. You need to experience things directly before you learn. Not only must we experience a situation ourselves, but unfortunately, that situation has to be painful to teach us something. Pain, of course, is a relative term. A study published in 2010 by Madsen and Desai shows that failure teaches us better than success. Moreover, it shows that lessons from success are much easier forgotten. So is learning from failure easy? How does it happen? What exactly do we learn? Learning starts with a failure that challenges the way we thought things worked. The lesson does not appear immediately because at first we're sad, we're angry. Why did this happen? It bothers us. What's wrong with the way that I think or the way that I behave? What went wrong in this particular situation? It goes over and over and over again in our brains. But finally, that moment comes, that aha moment, the moment of insight. That can take a while, but if you want to speed up that process or help yourself learn better from the mistake, follow this, experts say. Write this down. See what you think about this. This is what the experts say you should write down. Sentence number 1. Before the failure, I thought that... Finish that sentence. But then I realized that... And now I... So every time you experience some sort of failure, if you write that down, experts say that will help you process the information faster, and it will help you learn from your mistake better as well. Number 1, before the failure, I thought that, but then I realized that, and now I do this differently. What do you think? Is it a little bit too, I don't know what the word is, or do you think that this could be effective? It sounds like if you keep a diary, this could be a really effective method to try to learn from your mistakes and move on from your failures quickly as well. That is today's Me, Myself, and I. When we come back, it'll be time for Today in Music. Here are the wonders, That Thing You Do. That was The Wonders, That Thing You Do, and now it's time for Today in Music. It is September 11th on the calendar today, so let's have a look back in time and see what we can see musically speaking. We'll start today in 1965. Born on this day, Moby. He is an American musician, songwriter, singer, producer. He sold over 20 million records worldwide. He's been described as among the most important dance music figures of the early 1990s, helping bring dance music to a mainstream audience both in the United States and in the UK. That is very, very true. In 1971, Donny Osmond started a 3-week run at number 1 on the U.S. singles chart with Go Away Little Girl, the singer's only U.S. solo chart topper. The song had also been a number 1 for Steve Lawrence in 1963. In 1977, David Bowie recorded a guest appearance on Bing Crosby's Merry Old Christmas TV show, duetting with Crosby for a medley of Peace on Earth and Little Drummer Boy. The now iconic performance was one of Crosby's last performances before his death the following month. In 1982, John Cougar Mellencamp became the only male artist to have 2 singles in the U.S. top 10, as well as the number 1 album, Jack and Diane, landed at number 4. Hurts So Good came in at number 8, and his album American Fool maintained the top spot for 9 weeks in total. Great songs from a great album. In 1987, reggae star Peter Tosh passed away in Kingston, Jamaica. Tosh rose to fame as a founding member of the Wailers alongside Bob Marley and Bunny Wailer. After leaving the group in the mid-1970s, Tosh established a successful solo career. And finally, we'll stop here today. In 1993, Mariah Carey started an 8-week run at number 1 on the U.S. singles chart with Dream Lover. Her vocal performance was inspired by Minnie Riperton, an American singer and songwriter noted for her 5-octave vocal range. Riperton, was best known for her 1974 international hit, Lovin' You. Do not try to sing that at a norebang. It is impossible to sing. Mariah Carey, we'll listen to 2 songs. We have time? Yep, we have time for 2 songs from the artist we talked about. Mariah Carey, Dream Lover. This is the live version. And then after that, Moby, Extreme Ways. Good tunes there. Moby, I haven't heard Moby in such a long time. That was great to hear. Extreme Ways, and before that, Mariah Carey, the live version of Dream Lover. And that'll do it for Steve Hatherly Reboot for this afternoon. No more time for the show today. Thank you very much for being a part of it, though. I appreciate that. Thank you to Casey for today's Need to Know. Thank you to you, as always, for your listenership and your participation. We had some fun today. I've been your host, Steve Hatherly, and I'll leave you with this. It's Aerosmith Crazy. Enjoy that. Enjoy your day, and we'll reboot again tomorrow.
Come here, baby.